So, has the Rey movie been cancelled? Who knows? Who knows? I mean, was it ever officially greenlit to begin with? Who knows? Like, who actually knows? Complete joke of a film, complete joke of a company. But there is growing evidence to indicate that it is not necessarily happening anytime soon. And this one in particular is quite... There's a lot of weight here. A lot of evidence which indicates that that is the case. So, thought we'd take a look at this. Mainly because it's comical. Right? You know. Is there any major news here? No, not really. There's just more evidence to say it's cancelled. Is this a grand surprise? No. Is it funny? Yes. Therefore, is it entertaining and worthwhile covering? Yes, I believe. And so this is all to do with Sharmeen Obaid-Chinoy, the activist director. Also, some people have asked what's wrong with my thumb. I chopped the tip of it off with an angle grinder. It's very painful. Super, super painful. Also burnt my hand. As you can see, the skin's coming off. And that was another cut from the angle grinder. Good times. Anyway, let's move on. Now I've addressed the thumb. So, Sharmeen Obaid-Chinoy, activist director. This individual was brought on to the Rey movie. And at that point, the writer that initially pitched the movie left. Shortly after, anyway, which was just weird. Like, that was odd. Why would that happen? And then they just sort of started to trundle on. There was no real writer involved. No one really knew what was happening. But they'd already announced it. They were like, yep, it's going to be released. And now it's just kind of fallen by the wayside. Like all Star Wars projects. But there was basically a puff piece. All right, Variety published this puff piece. A profile on a filmmaker. Okay? And as this article notes, readers tend to notice not only what's included, but what isn't included. And that's quite telling, right? Like, this is a PR piece. It's a promotional piece. It's a piece to push this director forward within the industry. Sometimes coordinated by their own agents, their own publicists. So you'd think that they would want to publicise and push this director in connection with what was at one point the biggest franchise in history. At one point. Obviously Marvel's overtaken it now. So the fact that it's not there, weird opportunity like missed, right? That is weird. Some people will argue it's not weird. It is weird. That's bloody odd. And so as it says here, in the case of Sharmeen Obaid-Chinoy, the two-time Oscar-winning director for activism, who was once announced at the helm of a new Star Wars movie centered on Daisy Ridley's Rey, a major omission might be the biggest story of all. So on October 11th, Variety ran an exclusive piece highlighting Obaid-Chinoy's work as executive producer on Don't Be Late, Myra, a short film by Pakistani-American director Afia Nathaniel. The article, which praises Obaid-Chinoy's support of socially conscious storytelling, describes her as a two-time Academy Award and four-time Emmy winner, and notes her experience directing Marvel's Ms. Marvel. But the one thing the article didn't mention, not even in passing, is Star Wars. So for fans following the long-promised threatened Rey sequel film directed by Sharmeen Obaid-Chinoy, that silence would speak volumes, which makes sense. And here's a bit of the dialogue, right? So in April 2023, that long ago now, Lucasfilm officially announced that Sharmeen Obaid-Chinoy would direct a theatrical Star Wars film set about 15 years after The Rise of Skywalker, centered around Rey. Daisy Ridley would return, now rebuilding the Jedi Order, and according to Lucasfilm's own presentation at Star Wars Celebration in London, the film was to be the first in a new line of theatrical stories exploring the future of the galaxy far, far away. At the time, Obaid-Chinoy was candid about her perspective on the project. In one interview, she said, quote, "It's about time we have a woman shape a story in a galaxy far, far away." I mean, are you are you saying Kathleen Kennedy's a bloke? Like, what? What about Bryce Dallas Howard? Is she a bloke? What about all the other women that directed, like, Mandalorian and stuff like that? Are they blokes? What's going on? So that comments the debate among Star Wars fans, not least because the franchise had already been shaped by women for years. Kathleen Kennedy being one of them, of course. Deborah Chow, Leslie Headland, Bryce Dallas Howard, and loads of others. So fans also resurfaced an older quote from Abe Chinoy's documentary filmmaking days where she claimed, "We like to make men uncomfortable. I enjoy making men uncomfortable," which was, yeah, pretty weird. Look at this smug bitch, honestly. Just one of those people that you just think, yeah, I know exactly what your... I know what your opinions are, and I don't like them. You can tell. You can tell looking at this woman, you're like, yeah, I know what your opinions are. I know what you believe. I know the cut of your jib, and I don't like it. I respect it. So Abe Chinoy also described her vision for Rey's journey as exploring that of a female Jedi, a framing that some fans saw as emphasizing gender politics over character growth. And then basically, as this continues, this sort of story of nonsense, in October 2024, just as an FYI, no one knew what was going on with this. Damon Lindelof and co-writer, they were attached early on. It was Damon Lindelof that pitched it, actually. Then they were replaced by Stephen Knight, and then he's left the project. And then, this was supposed to be in, like, theatres, December 2026. But in 2024, October, Stephen Knight left again, as I said. Damon Lindelof left as well. And Lindelof was interesting because he pitched this film and brought on the co-writer. It was his film. And then Disney were like, yeah, we'll give you director Abe Chinoy. And then they left and they were like, what? It was all really weird. Really, really weird. And then loads of things have happened since then. Just generally little bits of information. Basically development limbo. It's not happening. Who knows? But as this article rounds out, and it is quite true, Variety's omission is a signal or confidence. I would say it just shows that it's not happening. So Variety's October 2025 profile of Abe Chinoy is glowing, detailed, and clearly based on her team's own promotional materials, which is what I said. These are normally publicist-driven, agent-driven. So why would you not push yourself in connection with what was the biggest property of all time? It's odd. Like, even if you think it's still going ahead, that is odd. So it celebrates humanitarian values, creative leadership, but no Star Wars mention is odd. And as the article says, it feels deliberate, which I think it is. So I don't think this is happening. I think we'll hear about it. Oh, no, they did say that Sean Levy's film would feature Rey now. And then they also announced Simon Kinberg doing a trilogy as well. So I think this movie is cancelled because it's become the Sean Levy movie, or at least a tease of it. And then Simon Kinberg's trilogy will probably end up being part of what this was supposed to be. And then James Mangold's film is probably not happening. So basically Star Wars is still a joke, as always. Not really a great surprise. But like I said, this is funny, right? Like, we're doing this from an entertainment perspective. Just to show how just magnificently disorganised they all are. And as I like to say, Disney couldn't organise a shit in a toilet. Very clearly. So leave your thoughts down below. Take care. Bye-bye now.